So some pretty interesting information came out in the past couple days that ESPN's Dan Orlovsky spoke with Matt LaFleur this offseason about potentially coaching in Green Bay. And earlier this week, Orlovsky was on ESPN's radio show, Wilde and Tausch, and he was asked if he'd ever consider coaching in the NFL world. And first off, he sort of made it clear that he enjoys his gig at ESPN, but that he wouldn't rule out coaching and that he thinks about it all the time. And then he said this: "I've had conversations with Matt about it, of going out there. So I've had some conversations this offseason. It'll always be something that I'm interested in. Right now, I love being at ESPN. I love being able to do what I do, and I'm super thankful for that." So Dan Orlovsky didn't have the most successful NFL career. He was drafted by the Lions in the 5th round of the 2005 NFL draft. Only ended up starting in 12 games, went 2-10, threw for 3,100 yards, roughly 15 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But then in 2017, he made the decision to retire. ESPN decides to hire him as an analyst, and he's been with ESPN for the past 5 or so years. And I, for one, love Orlovsky as an analyst. I think he takes the complexities of the NFL game and really simplifies them and helps the common folk who aren't NFL players understand sort of how things work. And so he's clearly done a very, very good job as an analyst. And if we look back to 2019, it was reported by Adam Schefter back then that the Packers had actually reached out to Orlovsky in 2019 about potentially joining Matt LaFleur's staff. Of course, that didn't happen back then, but it still sort of looks like Orlovsky and LaFleur have stayed in touch. And when we look at the connection between LaFleur and Orlovsky, they actually crossed paths for about 2 months in 2017. In January of 2017, Matt LaFleur was hired as the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. And then in July of 2017, Orlovsky was hired or was added as a QB on the roster, was then released in September. So LaFleur and Orlovsky spent 2 months together in Los Angeles, and it seems like maybe they created some kind of relationship while they were there. And if I were to wake up one day with the news that Orlovsky was hired as a Packers offensive coach, I would say I'd be cautiously optimistic, because I think he clearly can explain things in a good way. He can teach people well. We see that if you watch him on ESPN. I think he does a really good job. I enjoy watching him. So he probably can get these concepts over to NFL players, but I feel like you just don't really know how good a coach is going to be until he actually goes in there and coaches. And I think just the fact that Matt LaFleur even discussed that possibility with Orlovsky sort of shows me that LaFleur has some confidence in what Orlovsky could potentially do as a coach. And when we look at coaches in the NFL, you don't have to have had a stellar career as a player to make it as a coach. Look at Matt LaFleur, for example. He played college football, Division II, from 2000 to 2002 with Saginaw Valley State. And then he didn't enter the NFL, only spent 2 seasons in the National Indoor Football League. So just because Orlovsky wasn't a great QB doesn't mean he can't be a great coach. So I'd be curious to see if this ever happens. It looks like right now Orlovsky seems comfortable with his gig at ESPN. He mentioned he has 4 young kids and he enjoys, spending more time with them. And if he were to coach, it would be a lot more tough when it comes to scheduling, I guess, when it comes to travel and game prep and all those kinds of things. But my guess is that if Orlovsky does one day decide to coach in the NFL or wants to, that maybe Matt LaFleur could potentially be the first guy that reaches out to him if it happens. But I just thought that was pretty interesting news. I also have a Packers email newsletter. I'll link that down below if you would like to sign up for that. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.